Every map has its blank spaces, places that existed once and then didn't. You could call them ghost towns, forgotten communities, or simply mistakes of geography. But sometimes there are towns that vanish not because they're abandoned, but because the world itself forgets they were ever there. One of those places was called Ridgeway, or at least, that's what the people who remember it used to say. If you go looking for it today, you won't find a thing, not a road sign, not a foundation, not even an outline on satellite view. It's as if the land folded over it like a blanket and erased every trace. And yet, someone claims to have been there just one man. His name was Daniel Mercer, and his story is the only evidence that Ridgeway might have existed at all. Daniel was a long-haul delivery driver from Missouri. He'd been driving routes for 8 years, quiet, meticulous, the kind of man who liked things to make sense. On a late September night, after a storm had washed out part of his usual route, he was redirected down a road he didn't recognize, Route 191B. He didn't think much of it at first. The GPS said it would reconnect to the main highway within 40 miles. But after driving 20 minutes through fog and silence, he started to feel something off. No other cars, no lights, no sound except the hum of his engine, and the faint hiss of rain on the windshield. Then his gas light came on. That's when he saw the wooden sign, half covered in moss. Welcome to Ridgeway Estate 1899. He remembered thinking how strange it was that he'd never heard of it. But there was a small town sitting in a bowl-shaped valley, fog clinging to rooftops like smoke. A gas station sat right at the edge, its neon sign flickering faintly. Gas and groceries open 24 hours. He pulled in, relieved. But the moment he stepped out, he realized the silence was absolute. Not a single cricket. Not the wind. Even the sound of his own footsteps seemed swallowed by the air. He walked inside. A bell chimed over the door, the kind every gas station has. But no one appeared behind the counter. The lights were on, humming faintly. Shelves stocked. A pot of coffee sat steaming on a hot plate, though it looked like it hadn't been touched in hours. A newspaper lay open by the register, its headline clear under the fluorescent light. Local boy found after storm. The date? Yesterday. He called out once. Twice. No answer. He walked behind the counter. There was a half-eaten sandwich, a pack of cigarettes, an open ledger. Everything looked used, but no one was there. When he turned around, something changed. He couldn't tell what exactly. The aisle seemed wrong. The angles too sharp. The lights flickered once. And in that split second, he thought he saw someone standing near the door. Just a shape. And when the light steadied, it was gone. Daniel backed out slowly, his heart pounding. The fog outside was thicker now, like it was pushing against the glass from the outside in. Across the street stood a diner chrome sign, windows fogged. Inside, tables still set, plates half finished, a cup of coffee trembling slightly, as though someone had just set it down. He shouted again. No one answered, but when he stepped closer to the window, he noticed something chilling. His reflection in the glass wasn't moving. He stepped back. It stayed still for just a moment too long. Then it smiled. Daniel stumbled backward into fog, nearly falling into the street. When he turned around to find his truck, it was gone. Only tire tracks remained, fading into mist. He turned toward the gas station, and it wasn't there anymore either. Just empty ground. He started walking, calling out. He thought maybe he'd wandered further than he realized. But the more he walked, the less sense it made, because every direction led back to the same intersection, the same sign, the same words, welcome to Ridgeway. Except now, there was something else beneath it, freshly carved into the wood. You're late. At this point in Daniel's account, there's a gap, roughly an hour of time he can't recall. When he regained awareness, it was dawn. The fog had lifted. He was standing in the middle of an empty field. No buildings, no signs, no road, just open land. The faint smell of gasoline and a newspaper lying face down in the grass. When he picked it up, it was the same issue he'd seen before. Same headline, same date. Except this time, his own name appeared in the article. Local man found after storm, Daniel Mercer. He drove to the nearest police station 30 miles away. They checked the coordinates on his dash cam. They didn't exist. Every recording showed only static from the moment he turned onto Route 191B. State records confirmed. There was no Ridgeway. Never had been. But old road logs told a different story. In the 1930s, a small mining settlement by that name was flooded after a dam collapse. Dozens were lost. The survivors left or tried to. But local reports at the time said something strange. That the town wasn't destroyed, it just disappeared. No remains ever found. Just fog and silence. Years later, truckers still tell stories of that stretch of road. A sudden detour sign that appears only in bad weather. A glowing light in the fog. A town that shouldn't be there, but is just long enough to make you stop. Some say it's a trick of the light. Others, a shared hallucination, an echo burned into memory and atmosphere. But few, a very few, believe Ridgeway is still there. Waiting for travelers who take wrong turns. Waiting for the ones who drive too far into the fog. Waiting for someone to remember its name again. Because when the world forgets you existed, you find your own ways to be remembered. If you ever find yourself on an empty stretch of highway, the kind where the road hums under your tires and the fog thickens too fast, and you see a sign that reads, "Welcome to Ridgeway," don't stop. Don't look for gas. Don't try to remember where it should be on a map, because it's not supposed to be there. And if you stop long enough, it might remember you instead.